good friends? I'm Nick, I'm Hyperion's Crypto, and this is week 2 of the club's golf tips. So what we're going to talk about today, it's a bit more of a complex issue regarding setup. That's what we did last week. This week we're going to talk about flattening the club. Everybody wants to flatten the club. If you look at all the top tier pros, you know, there's a big trend that's been going on for a couple of years. It talks about shallowing the club, coming into the ball, you know, a better angle, not being steep, etc. If you look at some of the top tier pros, there's all a varying degree of this. So you have some of the most flat guys on the planet would be Sergio Garcia, Matt Wolff. You know, they talk about, you know, ball striking, things like that. Rory's like, you know, 2 degrees under plane, like real flat, like ball striking. And it all varies depending on what you're looking for. So in general, if you want to talk about iron play, you don't really want to be coming in as flat. You know, neutral, -1, -1, -2 is probably not, you know, steep enough. But just in general, it, you know, when you flatten out the club and you're coming into the ball, it just gives you more space and room to be able to rotate more and longer through the ball. And that's the whole premise behind flattening. And a lot of it has to do with the right side. So if you're steep on the ball and the club's coming in this, the only thing you can kind of do is basically stand up. But if you're coming in this way, you can stay low and you can get this really long right side through the ball, right? So if you see some crazy ball strikers, they have a really bent right arm and they're coming through, their hips are coming in, you know, their shoulders aren't tilted back, they're pretty level coming in through the ball, and they're rotating through, and, you know, they have this like crazy long extension. You don't need all of that, but you do need some degree of coming in flat to the ball. If you are not naturally flat, it takes a lot of effort and work to do that, to basically change that. So I am naturally a steep player, so I've been working forever just to try to get into a better position, square the club face, and a lot of it has to do with how you pull the club back. It's not necessarily a manual move in transition that makes you get flat into the ball. Basically, if you are in certain positions in the backswing, you will not really have the ability to, you know, correct that going into the downswing. So just, if this is more of a, maybe a general or a series on things to look out for in order to transition the club more flatly so that you can come into the ball more consistently. Because it's about consistency, it's not necessarily about being flat. Because obviously, if you're coming in really flat to the ball, because you're coming in behind and you're not naturally doing it, or you're not doing it in the right way, what can happen is you can say, oh, I'm going to get flat, but you're so tilted behind, you're going to hit it fat, you're going to flip, you're going to hit it right. A lot of times it can lead to snap hooking. It's like a constant battle. So being ultra flat isn't necessarily the answer. It's more important to be able to be flat enough, especially with irons, or be flat enough, especially with irons, that's going to give you that consistency. And for really there's this huge emphasis on distance and driving, and it is really important. But if anybody that's on the pro tour too, but if anybody not on the pro tour, so that means any amateur across the board, I would guess that most amateurs that you play with or that you see that aren't, you know, going to compete to be on the AM tour or on a pro tour, their iron play is spectacular. Because that's on an AM level really where you're going to make most of the difference. It's not really going to be off the tee. So if you talk to like a scratch, a plus, even anybody under 5, it's generally not, you know, the strength of their game is generally going to lie within their irons. And as you get closer to scratch and then a plus handicap, the ability for them to pretty much pull out an iron or a long iron off the tee and hit that down the middle every time, that's the separator. It's not really the driver. The driver, because a lot of the, you know, AM courses that you're playing, they're not 7,600 yards. They're under 7,000 yards, And a lot of times courses don't even play 7,000 yards. So again, focusing on the irons is what's going to be critical. So back to the flat conversation. So pretty much there's a couple elements that you need in the backswing. One of which is you need a steep shoulder plane, right, without tilting. So when you come back, there's a difference between tilting and then turning back. And those are two big elements that sort of get people, especially when they look to do something themselves and then they don't look at it on camera. So for a lot of steep players, myself included, you do what's called a flat back turn, flat backswing. So I turn behind the ball here, right? And this looks really good. And hypothetically, I can come in like this, but that is a don't do that, right? So the idea is, and this is the thing, if you want to get flatter in transition, look at any player on tour. They have a really steep backswing and they have a very shallow downswing. So Matt Wolff is like the extreme version of this, where he goes up like this and then he lays it down, and he can lay it down because that's what he does, right? He has the ability to flex the wrist and then come in so flat. While that's cool, you don't necessarily want to go for that move, because anything on the extreme side it ends up causing problems. So the two key elements in order to get flatter is what you would want to work on is this right here, right? This right here. So the sooner that the club shaft stands up, right? So the steeper the club shaft is in the backswing, the more organic and natural ability you can shallow it out in the downswing. But if you are swinging like this, you got two options. This or this. Slice, no distance, way out of control, inconsistency. Hit fat, snap hook, maybe you hit it okay a couple times. Same thing, blocking, leads to a whole host of things, not to mention your back. So in, I guess, our series about getting flatter, the first thing that we're gonna work on is the first 3 feet of the swing, right? Here. If so we have setup. We're setting up to the ball right? Nice loose setup, okay? Got our grip. If you can get this, you are instantly going to improve. The reason why that happens is because this first 3 or 4 or 5 feet sets up how the club comes up here, right? And this part sets up how the club transitions. And then the transition sets up how the club is going to come in through impact. So we have to work backwards in the golf swing. There's too many coaches in emphasis, an emphasis out there on downswing. Even Justin Rose, stud iron player, goes to Sean Foley. I'll say it, I think Sean Foley is just a trending swing destroyer, right? Now, he's really popular, et cetera, but tell me a player that he hasn't wrecked. So anyway, everything in Justin Rose, it's an emphasis on the downswing. It's this move. It's like, if you wanna not put on a short-term temporary band-aid that is gonna actually improve you throughout the game, that will make instant improvements, even though it's a harder grind to get to, the takeaway. Whenever you can, it doesn't matter if you don't have a club, I want you to practice this, right? This. See how my hands don't turn over or twist or anything? It's just on the face on, right? Here's my setup. What am I doing? I'm not holding it. I'm not tilting it. I'm not rolling it. I'm just neutral. So it's almost like the feeling is this wrist right here. Also, keep note, forward press. Don't do a forward press, okay? What the forward press will do, here my hands are forward pressed. The instant move I want to make is this. And what does this do? It comes back around. Look at Tiger, right? Look at any really good ball striker on tour. It's like this creates a straight line right down the neckline, right? So when I take it back, it's very neutral, and I'm almost using this wrist, right? This arm moves the club back, and because I'm not swinging it to the inside, I'm just moving it sort of in towards my thigh and letting, you know, I'm almost resisting here, but at the same time, I'm letting the body be natural. Pushing the club up, it comes up, right? So, that's the feeling that you want. That's the only takeaway that we're doing today. That's why everybody emphasizes, oh, club head outside the hands. It's to basically give you a steep club shaft and most importantly, a steep body. So in the golf swing, you want a steep body and a shallow club. Or another way of putting it is a steep body and shallow arms. But if you get a shallow body, you're gonna get steep arms, right? So, takeaway, lesson, this is what we're doing. This is the golf tip of the week, right? You can try it with a left hand. It's gonna feel, if you are an early roller, because a lot of times if we try to get flat ourselves, this is what we do, right? Swing it to the inside. You want to do the exact opposite. You want to feel like this thing is freaking steep. You want to feel like you're doing the Matt Wolff. And I guarantee you, if you feel like you're doing it, you're like 4 feet off from actually having the club head outside like this. Because it's going to be so foreign to you, and it's going to feel so weird on your wrist, on your elbow, on your arms. But that's what we want. It'll also help you more sink and not overswing, right? So again, you can do it with the left arm first. Get your body in sync. You know, it doesn't throw the club way behind you. Then you can put your right arm, just this. This is all I want you to practice. And let the body flow. You don't want to hold back or tilt or try to do anything. Just let the body flow. And then the other piece, if you want to take, so we're gonna tackle this too, but the right hand, most people don't know how to work the right hand. So if you want to understand, here's a pro tip. Pro tip of the week. Cross hand. Take the club cross hand, right? Players who rotate and come in shallow, not necessarily they can stripe it, but they're gonna know this feeling. It's not gonna be foreign to them. But and I know this because I had to work towards this, right? So I've been through all this. Cross hand, you will basically swing and set the club perfectly coming down, right? So this will give you the feeling of what the club should feel like and transition. Look at that. Well, why can't we do that if it's opposite? It just, for whatever reason, the dynamics and it just doesn't work out. So pro tip, if you want to feel what it's like to take the club up correctly and transition correctly with rotation, try a cross-handed swing. You'll get the desired bowed or flexed wrist. You'll get the big extension here, and you'll transition like a boss. All right, thanks for tuning in. Next week, this will be a little bit of a series, so we'll talk about what to do after this. What to do after this. Thanks, everybody.